Thank you so very much, everyone, for staying with us still on the program. Let's turn our attention to issues around the value-added tax, which has been on for a while, but in recent times, particularly in the last few days, we're seeing a whole new level of debates in this regard. Now I'm joined by finance expert Haruna Brahima to help us find perspectives and contexts in this conversation. First of all, Haruna, I would like to say a big thank you to you because I understand it's a very busy day, but here you are on the program. Let's talk about how we got to this new level of value-added tax. Before now, they said, well, the International Monetary Fund wants Nigeria to move VAT from 7.5% to 10%. But here, now we're beginning to hear luxury tax issue. We're beginning to hear, how that the 19 state governors are not comfortable with this new VAT move by the government. What exactly is this issue?
First of all, let's deconstruct and debunk the IMF aspect of this whole issue. Mm-hmm. That is demeaning to us as a country, and it's an insult to the sensibility of Nigerians. If we now assume that our fiscal framework can only be directed or molded or advised to be constructed by the whims and caprices of the World Bank and IMF. There was nowhere across any fora or a write-up or through any form of correspondence where the IMF advised the Nigerian government to move its VAT rate from 7.5% to 10%. The proposed, we're still having a VAT of 7.5% even as we speak.
Right.
The proposed VAT increase to 10% is all embedded in the proposed comprehensive tax reform bill that is with the National Assembly at the moment. I don't know why we tend to blow things out of proportion. We sensationalize topical and very important issues that need a serious, intelligent engagement for the growth and development of Nigeria. What led to the tax reform? Nobody is talking about the withholding tax. We're just emphasizing on VAT. Why? Nobody is talking about the company income tax. Nobody is talking about the many benefits embedded in the personal income tax, the reliefs and benefits. Nobody talking about the many exemptions created by this government to encourage SMEs for the company income tax and businesses to grow. Why are we politicizing the VAT aspect, which is just an aspect of the total tax reform? The tax reform was broken down into four aspects, talking about the fiscal side of it, where we are speaking about the derivative, regarding the VAT derivative now. We have the total tax administration, which is the legal framework that guides the tax administration. We have the changing of name from the Federal Revenue to the National Revenue, Nigerian Revenue Service. We have the former joint tax bill that is now going to be changed to flow with the whole tax reform arrangements. And this whole thing is all encompassing. And here we are debating and building narratives. Nobody is talking about the fact that the new tax regime will encourage businesses that are having turnover of less than 25 million not to pay taxes. They will be exempted from taxes. Even inside the VAT, why are we talking about the derivative aspect of the VAT? What of the VAT input in the proposed tax reform? The VAT input side is total 100% relief for VAT payers, which means because normally you deduct your VAT input from your VAT output.
Right.
The difference is what you charge the rate on. But right now, imagine you have 7.5% as rate. You calculate your VAT input to be 17 naira, and your total VAT output is 100 naira. Normally, you deduct 17 naira from 100 naira. You deduct 7.5% of your input, remove it from your output, and you charge your 7.5%. But right now, you have full exemption full relief of 100% on your input. So instead of 75% of your 70 naira, you're going to be deducted full 70 naira. Do you understand? So you are just only going to charge the VAT on the 30 naira difference. The difference between 70 and 100 naira. Is that not a huge relief to the system, to businesses to grow? But they are now saying to still make it balance a little, you pep the rate up. Because that relief that have been granted 100% is a loss to government revenue. But pepping up the rates to 10%, which is 2.5% different, we still create a balancing edge. You understand? A revenue for the government.
So
nobody talks about that.
Right.
Now the sharing is what they are crying for. I was on this station a few weeks ago.
On Business Point.
Exactly. When I talked about the fact that everybody is blaming the federal government. This old VAT that they are collecting, the state are the one benefiting from it. The state and local government, they benefit from the VAT collected by federal government. The federal government only assess 15% of the total revenue from VAT. Yet this same state government have not been able to prove to Nigerians what they be doing with the money. Now that the derivatives, because there has been disparity in the derivative, because VAT is collected from point of remittance. The states that is being remitted, before now, the derivative formula is that the remitting states where the VAT is being remitted benefit more from where the whatever is vatable is being produced. Imagine a situation whereby in my state we produce an agricultural product, and in the new tax regime, agricultural products, pharmaceuticals, medical, they are exempted from VAT. From point of production now, I'm not, but the states where I'm producing is not benefiting from it. But where consumption is taking place, because the VAT is on consumption. Water, for example, bottled water is exempted for point of production. But where it's consumed in an hotel, in a restaurant, it's VATed. And if you take it across from your state to another state, the benefiting state is going to be the other states, while the production state is benefiting zero. So it's not limited to the north. It has been a disparity that has been affecting the 6 geopolitical zones.
But that raises a question, Haruna.
So the question now is
why are these governments concerned? Why are they so concerned?
Because they are not, because they have to compensate. That's why I just told you, they are crying foul for nothing. Because the new regime, the fiscal reform that is being given by this tax reform, is going to give almost 80 to 70% of Nigeria tax revenue to the state governors, so that the citizens, the federal government want to put the responsibility to the regional regional states. You understand? I keep saying it on this program that to drive an economy, the sub-regional states need to work. If they are not working, the economy of Nigeria will not grow. And their complaint has been that the chunk of the revenue is settled in the central government. That is why they, the states, are handicapped, even when they have not been able to account or transparently utilize what they'll be collecting since. So right now, the reverse is becoming the case. Let's change the derivative formula. Let those states that have capacity to produce earn more. So it's a wake-up call on those states that are crying foul now to be productive, so that they will earn more. Because right now, the derivative formula for the VAT sharing, VAT collection sharing, is now saying that both for point of consumption and point of production will benefit.
Let me ask you this quickly.
If Dangote headquarters is in Lagos, and is producing in Ogun State, but its headquarters is in Lagos, all the books, the records are in Lagos. Before, the total VAT output will be chargeable and received in Lagos State. So during the sharing, Lagos State will benefit more than Ogun State in the VAT arrangement. Because Ogun just consume. You understand? But in this arrangement now, everybody, every state, both the production, the producing state from where these products are being produced that are vatable, and state where the services, consumption and services is being consumed of the product, will all now benefit.
Okay, so if you say these northern governors are crying foul,
yeah, it's wrong. I think it's out of they need to engage the fiscal reform committee that proposed the tax reform. Yeah, they really need to engage them, because from what we have seen, and they need to engage experts too to really put them through and not politicize this, because it's not only going to it's not affecting them alone. Before now, the way what they are complaining about now, other states are also complaining about it.
You know, the reason is we're saying.
Do you know how many oil companies that has their headquarters in Lagos?
Right.
And their operations are in Niger Delta.
The Niger Delta region.
And their point of remittance of that is Lagos. So the South supposed to be the biggest region affected before now. Negatively. We're supposed to be the one cry foul. You understand?
So in the event that these...
Just look at the IGRO of Rivers State with all the oil companies there. All they collect is a state. They collect state related withholding taxes and pay from these companies, because the headquarters of these companies are in Lagos.
So Lagos enjoys more.
Exactly. Look at the latest report, where Edo State IGRO is even number 6 in the federation. Look at where Rivers State is. Rivers State is the poorest in the South region.
All right, let's talk about this whole, the proposal that is now in front of the National Assembly.
Yeah.
By the time it goes through, regardless of who feels comfortable with it and who doesn't, for example, what does it mean for small and medium-scale businesses in this country and workers across Nigeria?
It's there. I just told you that one of the provisions in that reform is talking about eliminating multiple taxations.
Right.
We're going to be having a unified tax system, whereby the states, revenue boards, inland revenue collection agencies will all now be working in consolidating revenue with the National Revenue Service, or the Nigerian Revenue, whichever name it is called. We're now having a consolidated revenue-based arrangement, tax collection system. So issue of multiple taxation does not arise anymore, where a small business is being affected with all sorts of tax, including local governments. I think early this year or late last year, we had all tax consultants. We had some stakeholders meeting in Abuja with the FCT. I think Wiki was represented by Senator Aduda in that meeting. These were all part of the things, all our suggestions to the larger, this fiscal reform committee. Everything is all going to be consolidated. To have, if you see, from forest to tax system, we are driving fiscal consolidation. Forest, I'm talking of foreign exchange. We're now driving a unified foreign exchange system. The Nigerian economy have not had this kind of robust and holistic reform in the last 43 years, economically. Hence, we are having the seemingly immediate backlash now, like hardship and all that. But the long-term effect is going to actually open up the system. For the first time, the true federalism and the fiscal federalism Nigerians are for, you're going to enjoy it. Where the economic power to drive the system will be relinquished to the state and the local government. By so doing, the local government will not have any excuse why it's not building, providing pipe waters, connecting the local government roads, opening up the rural economies, and the state too, building strong infrastructure that can crystallize and catalyze the real economic growth. And on the long run, what the federal government only need to do is to now aggregate, which is the macroeconomics, give fiscal direction to the whole country. So the tax reform is going to benefit, it's going to cut across, even for the pay as you earn. A lot of reliefs have been created. If you look where also the relief of under the Personal Income Tax Act, you get family reliefs. There are a lot of assumptions or reliefs that are being enjoyed by the elite before under the Personal Income Tax Act. Some of those things have been reversed because the tax has become more progressive. Progressive in the sense that those who earn more in the system should pay more taxes, not taxing the burdened citizen again.
So that's the reason, I guess, we have this introduction of the tax on luxury goods.
Before now, how many states in Nigeria, how do we collect our CGT? The CGT administration in Nigeria, capital gain tax administration, are very poor and low. a lot of capital project assets, dealings, real estate, capital goods that involve huge billions of transactions goes without remittance of taxes charged on them.
Who or what do we blame for that?
No, that's what I'm saying. We are not blaming anybody. But right now,
We're saying it needs to be corrected.
yes, a whole lot need to be corrected. It's not limited to VAT. We have a withholding tax system.
But how is it? I mean, I need you to talk to us about this for the benefit of our viewers this morning. How is it that every time we talk about this set of policies, as it has to do with something like tax, for example, even experts like yourself, I've seen many of them on and off television, would say, look, it's part of the preconditions that the IMF or the World Bank or some of these institutions are presenting to the government prior to making facility available to
It's
them.
a two-way thing. It's erroneous assumption. It's very, very erroneous. And I don't think any expert or professional would just sit somewhere and be saying that what the IMF owe you as your creditor is your capacity to pay. So if you not tell them that you have enough IGRO or you have enough sources of IGRO, that they are not the one that are telling you that. If you are giving me a facility as a risk management officer, you will ask me for some collateral, or how do you intend to pay these debts? If I now decide to tell you I'm going to dispose one of my car, if need be, or I have social source of revenue, I have multiple sources of income to be able, and you have assessed it, you see that is such a claim is viable enough, then you give me the facility. The IMF did not give you precondition to kill your citizens or to create economic hardship for your citizens because they want to give you loan. First of all, this loan is also for the development of Nigeria. IMF only asks for how viable is your economy? How do you want to strengthen? How has your economy be strengthened enough? Are you within the threshold? Because borrowing, we have the debt to GDP ratio. If the debt to GDP level is threatened, IMF will not care if you are telling them you will increase tax to 100%. Well, that means your gross domestic product, your capacity to grow domestically is very low compared to the money, the debt you are already owing. You will not be able to service those debts, because if we are using almost 90% of our revenue to drive debt services, that's a risk to IMF on its own. These are some of the critical issues that IMF look out for. Debt to GDP
ratio, right?
Yeah, not about a precondition of asking you to pay taxes or increase your tax level. But in the norm, if you look at it holistically in Africa and even in West Africa, the tax bracket in Nigeria is still wide. We've not even covered up to half because we are driving a luggage economy.
A luggage economy?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
An economy that relies on natural resources to survive. We feel we have sources of revenue and income. Tax is supposed to be a source of revenue. It's a compulsory payment from the citizenry. It's mandatory, dutiful, and responsibility driven. Expected as a patriotic citizen that is working or own a business. It's not negotiable, but at the same time, it's expected that the leaders will use it well to drive the economy, build infrastructure for me, to provide social services for me to enjoy that is paying it. That is ceteris paribus. All things being equal.
Yes, right.
But in an economy like ours, where we have oil as a natural resources, imagine countries without natural resources. Or they go around, some of these developed countries in Europe and even UK, how many resources do they have? So they tax their citizens well, and the citizens see what they are using the taxes to do. You understand? But in our case here, we rely more on oil revenue. What we can generate from oil revenue surpasses any expectations from taxes. So over the years, the need to actually expand our tax frontiers has been very low. You understand? But with the backlash in the oil market, oil deal, oil business, and the inability for us to meet up a whole lot, especially sustaining subsidy that has eaten deep in the system in our government coffers, we now begin to look inward. How can we strengthen our tax regime, tax system? in the last, since the beginning of this year, most of the monies that have been saved, that you see the federal government FAC allocation going into trillions, month in, month out, it's as a result of expanded fiscal measures taken by the government, not necessarily from crude oil.
Let's talk about something else. You talked about government trying to open up the space, government making efforts to, as it were, expand the tax nets to bring in more people to get to pay tax, especially like you mentioned, CGT, capital gain tax, for example, and a few other things, luxury goods as well, and things like that. In the days of former President Muhammadu Buhari, we saw what that government, that administration tried to do. We saw how former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo moved around this country, all in the bid to ensuring that taxes were not only paid, but that more people, especially within the informal sector, were brought in. As a matter of fact, there was a time we had a 9-month window for people who had been evading taxes the whole time to
talk about it.
Exactly, to be quote unquote pardoned and then turn a new leaf, so to speak, and things like that. First, have these efforts paid off?
Yes, it has to some extent, and with the new tax reform, if you look at the way I'm talking about the second part of the tax reform, talking about the legal administration of tax, there are provisions there. We don't need to, with the bill is with National Assembly, we can't really dwell on it now. There are provisions, the legal provisions on how to prosecute and legally handle areas of tax evasion, tax avoidance, and underpayment and whatever it is. So it's an improvement upon what
has been achieved.
Exactly. So that one was just like a fast track approach to mop up some money. Okay, you pay this. If you quickly pay within this period,
we write off
whatever. You understand? It's just a deal for that moment, for that particular period of time. But it's good that with the tax reform now, we are legalizing everything, and the capacity to implement it should be the one to worry. Should be what is going to should be
political will.
Yeah, the political will to drive it, implement these policies. And the bureaucracy from the federal inland revenue is now going to be a national revenue service. You know, dealing with about 36 states, several ranks of local government, and the FCT. You understand?
Right.
And even the federal government taxes, collecting or managing or and all that. So they will need to get equipped themselves, manpower-wise, you know, and drive
competence.
Transparency in collection, not just competence, credibility and integrity is the watchword. Most of what has been going on, some of this tax evasion and tax whatever, the people from FRS are also culprits.
It seems like quite a complicated situation. But let's take a quick break now. We're back real quick to wrap it up on this conversation. To stay with us. So Haruna, I'd like us to talk about this other issue. I mean, you were talking about how that one of the things this set of reforms with regards to the tax regime in this country will ultimately accomplish is to ensure that subnationals become more robust and vibrant, which makes a lot of sense economically and otherwise. But I spoke with a handful of academics a couple of years ago about the same tax issue, and they said that every time we talk about multiple taxation, it's not so much about taxing as it is about levying, especially at the local government level.
What is levy? What is tax?
Because they are saying that when you talk about taxes, for example, you're talking about a percentage of revenue from whether it's a small business, medium
tax,
or large scale.
the definition of tax is a compulsory levy.
Oh, but I'm going to come to that in a bit.
Right.
But quite frankly, what they're saying is that even if you say we have been able to streamline the tax system in this country, you are still going to have all of these plethora of levies coming from the local government. I also to talk about how this affects businesses, because we must ensure that whatever we do ultimately does not stifle the survival of businesses.
Yeah, the unification of the tax administration, which is the consolidation that is embedded in the proposed tax reform bill, will take care of a lot of that. The plethora of all kind of levies will eliminate itself, whereby you now know what to pay. And once you pay, you know you have paid everything. Not this one coming with a signboard levy, hand washing levy,
generator levy,
different levy, all sorts of levies. You understand? By the time you are well assessed as a small business owner, you know what to pay, and you pay it once and for all. If you eliminate the multiple taxation, because the local government, the state government, they are all parts, they are being carried along. These tax reforms will be domesticated across the states, of course, across board. That's why it's going to be driving, because you still need the state inland revenue boards and the local government to work together to drive the consolidated tax revenue we are talking about. So everything, and that alone is going to save a lot for the SMEs.
We're going to be done in a few minutes, but let's talk about the gap in tax education for citizens, because ultimately this is about citizens. This is for citizens.
I think it's more of apathy.
As of today, it appears Nigerians are either, of course, there's the apathy against tax or paying taxes, but there's also the fact that, I mean, you just mentioned a couple of taxes here: withholding tax, personal income tax, and so on and so forth.
Tax.
Yes, some persons have either never heard these terms in their lives, exactly, or they don't have much of an idea how it works and things like that. How much of work do we need to do to enlighten our people about taxes?
Yeah, the government needs to do more. Also, more enlightenment for the citizens to see that tax is a responsibility. In the sane climb, sorry to use the word sane, we are also sane in developed economies. Nobody bothers you. There's what is called self-assessment.
Right.
At the end of the month, you get your tax. Every house has a tax consultant or a tax administrator they pay to come and help them fill their self-assessment form. You assess yourself with the principle of oberima fide, utmost good faith, because you're going to own up everything to the government.
Right.
Now these are your income for the month, because the government also have a system of seeing that everything you have declared is the right thing, is the correct thing, because you have an automated payroll system. If you are doing 2 jobs, they know where your incomes are coming from. So they know even some of the taxes has already been deducted at source, like your pay is removed at source. Remember, pay is different from personal income tax.
Right.
It's just an aspect of personal income. It's an income for you. You may have other sources of income which you need to declare. And some of the taxes, things that you have also enjoyed, that, for example, going to a restaurant and be charged VAT, I've bought a television and I've already paid. For the phone I bought, for the accessory I'm using, for the television or electronics, whatever AC that I'm buying, there's already an aspect of VAT that is embedded in that. It's called sales tax. These are my tax credits. So at the end of the month, you calculate those things that you have bought. What is the rate? Your tax consultant will help you out. What is the rate of taxes that is attracted to those items? They are your tax credits. You now nil it off for whatever tax you are supposed to pay to the government. That is a very good tax system. So you don't feel shortchanged. You will be happy to pay to the government, and in return, the government, you will see what the government is actually using it. They're using it to drive security, providing security for you, building infrastructure, good road network, education is there.
All of which are not the case in Nigeria.
That's why I said there's a disconnect between the taxpayers and the government. The responsibility here, in as much as we need to pay as citizens, the government also need to act. Act in a way that will convince us. We are having a suspicious relationship
with government.
Yes, between the taxpayers and the government. Everybody, they suspect each other. This money I'm able to pay now, what are they using it for? Even those even collecting the taxes, even at the local government, especially those levies, they don't even remit to the right coffers or the remit parts.
Let's talk about.
These are some of the reasons why this tax reform is needed. Because when you give these things legal framework, the implementation process, somebody can now fully implement it when you break it.
Right. Because there will be a law.
Exactly.
You mentioned developed economies a while ago. For example, in the US and across Europe, you hear about things like tax breaks, you hear about tax returns. Every year is like a cycle that happens a lot.
You must file your return.
Will these sweeping policies, as they are said to be, resolve all of these issues in the case of Nigeria, for example?
We are going to gradually go into that, where every working class Nigeria will be expected to make his annual returns to the nearest tax office. you must make it.
Compulsorily.
Yes, it will get to that. But we have to start. This tax reform is revolutionary.
Let's believe so, because as of today, we still have businesses. Some people have said do not remit VAT, for example. We have businesses that said to collect taxes. On behalf of employees, companies, they do not remit. Many of those criminal infractions. Yes.
Yeah, time to time, we are like our firm, our tax firm is also a consultant, one of the consultants to the FCT in that regard. Time to time, the FCT, IRS, Inland Revenue, they recruit and they engage a tax consultants to go
also look into these issues.
To go and do tax audit across, and we recover a lot of millions. The employers deduct taxes in payee from salaries of employees for years, and they don't remit it. And when some remit, they under remit.
And these are supposed to be crimes,
of course.
All right, a lot to be talked about this issue. Like you mentioned, the bill is still in front of the National Assembly, so hopefully when it's passed, whether in whole or in part, I'm sure we'll get more opportunities to talk about these issues as they unfold. Thank you so very much. I've been talking with Haruna Braimoh. He's a finance expert. That's what we're leaving it today, everyone. But do remember that all of the opinions or the views shared on our programs are the opinions of our guests, and we respect those opinions very well. Queen Agaba, myself, and the entire team here say a big thank you to you for watching Global Morning today. I'm Liag Mofwege. Coming up at the top of the hour, East Talk Sports with Anthony Momodu.